Oh, okay.
Well, we had it in May.
Those are gonna be all.
Oh, nice.
I did reach back out to him.
What, did it get
They're
rained
gonna
out
be
or
orange
anything?
and
or-
black, right?
Yeah.
I just heard about it. No, I just heard
I usually try to get there one day, so I haven't done this year yet.
Not, or just like,
Might not jump.
camel well, right?
Well, yeah, but I mean, yeah, those are the ones that they got.
Yeah, yeah.
Good. Yeah, I've talked to Rob about that.
It is hard to practice that. I don't know if you did it when you were
I just know the council budget with Jack.
trying to play basketball at 5 in the morning.
Like, sir, and
That's
show
a
you
good idea, let alone football. I
basically
can't
putting
imagine slamming into people at 5 in the morning.
Just apply it. Well, this is. Because like,
it's a
okay, well, but see, it's like I told you, that's my point, we can always look at the money. The extra money, we'll have to do that.
Yeah.
Anyway, I nudged him, I'll reach out to him too, I can see him.
Sounds good.
That's smart, that's a smart idea.
Welcome, everyone. Hope everyone has had a good summer so far. We have had some pretty good weather here. The fair is working up real well right now. We had pretty good attendance last night, for those of you that didn't make it. Start off with the meeting minutes from June 7th. Did everyone get a chance to review the minutes? If so, we'll entertain a motion to approve them.
So moved. Go ahead.
Connie?
I'll second it.
And Jack. All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. All right. We have a full contingent of board members here today, so we're in good shape. Unfinished business. We don't have NDOT or MACOG here as yet, so maybe we'll delay this until we're done with the unfinished business and then go from there. Traffic update, Propel US 30. Mayor?
Basically, I sat down with our law enforcement and we talked about the purpose and need study that has been, it's in the draft form. It'll be finalized at the end of this month, but basically, I told all of our traffic control, told us really what we need, what we knew. Talked about the safety being a huge factor with the congestion, with the unsafe intersections, if you will. I think out of 24 intersections on the eastern part of US 30, 4 of them were considered unsatisfactory. I think we had 2 of them right here in our community. Just as an example of what the report showed, I'd ask you all to get on the Propel US 30 site and look at the purpose and need study. It details, again, what we thought we knew. Essentially, it told us what NDOT now knows. And to me, it supports the allegations that we've got an unsafe road out there and we need to get something done about it. And that's all part of the process. It's been a good process. There have been plenty of public meetings, plenty of opportunities for folks to leave comments. Actually, I was at MACOG this morning and they just had a review with our consultant, talked about the purpose and need, dove pretty deep into it. So again, I think we're at a point now where we know what the concerns are, and they're primarily safety concerns, they're mobility concerns, getting to and from, across and through US 30, and then also utilizing 30 as a major transportation corridor and how that needs to be improved to me to continue our growth and economic development, getting our workforce to and from work, and maintaining the advantage that we have with that road to develop and grow our communities. So those are the three needs that were identified, and they will now be working between now and probably later this fall. They'll come out with a large group of alternative fixes, if you will. They will then pare that down to meet the needs that they've identified, probably in I think it's late, maybe early winter after the first of the year, and then they'll come up with a final recommendations or analysis for comment in the spring of '24, and they'll have another public meeting then. So they've decided, they've understood what the problems are. Now they're going to look at all the different ways and the possibilities to fix it. And then after they've gone through the analysis and the public comments and narrowed it down, they will then spend probably another 6 months putting the final report together. And it won't even be that long. I think they talked about fall of 2024, the PEL study will be finalized. So we're a little more than a year away from knowing exactly what the PROPEL study has told NDOT as far as the road. After that, I assume there will be suggestions and alternatives identified for our community and for other communities along the corridor. They will then be subject to probably another 6 to 8 months of environmental study at the federal level. The PEL did a portion of the environmental study, but to get a project, a federal a designation number, it has to have a full federal environmental study. So that would be the next step after the PEL. And then if money's available and those projects get programmed, you're looking at 5 years to do all the engineering and right away and all the other things that they need to do before the first shovel turns. So if as aggressively as things could happen, it would be probably 7 years from now before anything really starts to take shape. That's if the funding's identified and everything, it's just perfect. No pandemics, all the above. So I'm encouraged that we're making progress. I have let it be known that I don't think the purpose and need is addressing the economic development reality of how the safety issues are really impacting our ability to grow our communities. That to me is what we need to really hit home with on this final, before the draft is, or before the final is published, that they include the fact that the economic development component to this is a critical part of it. But that being said, I think we're on a good track to at least have an answer in a year, and then there's a lot of work to go. There's a lot of money to be identified, but I think NDOT's done a great job with this, with the study. The consultants have been very responsive. If you haven't had a chance to go to a meeting, go to the library to one of the drop-ins, jump on the website. Please do that. They've made the website very easy to use, very easy to leave a public comment, and they are relying on public comments through the end of this month to finalize that purpose and need. And there will be comments, again, as we go along to narrow down the options. But for the purpose and need, I think I'd ask you to get on propelus30.com, read the purpose and need. It's well written. Again, it tells us what we know, and then make your comments. I think especially from this group, from the Traffic Safety Commission, it would be very insightful. Joel gave me some statistics. We're averaging, was it 6 miles of US 30? We're averaging a wreck every other day. And that's just unacceptable. And as members of the Traffic Commission, I think you ought to make that known. So, and anything else you want to make known. You gave me a microphone, talk about US 30, I can go all day, but hopefully you got what you need. And again, we're progressing along, so.
Well, Mayor, I pulled some stats just to take a look at US 30 from last year to this year. And in the month of June, we had 21 accidents on US 30. 21.
That's more than every other day.
Last year at the same time, it was 11. So that's very significant. One of our biggest things that we fight against at the police department is manpower. And we just hired our 40th officer, Officer Shaw, which is the most officers we've had for a long time, I think actually ever. And with that, we can provide more enforcement on US 30. In June of last year, we had 88 citations written during that month. During the same time this year, we wrote 279. We are aggressively seeking enforcement on US 30 to make it safer.
I think what we learned from the purpose and need is that at least the average speeds in the eastern 30 are actually a little bit below the speed limit. And that's because there has to be a lot of slowing down at the traffic signals. So they're taking average speeds through the whole corridor. So speeding is always a concern, especially in a very congested area. And that just makes it even more important that we enforce the speeding. But the bigger issue are red light runnings, both those folks passing through and folks trying to get across 30. Scott, and I mean, you guys, you're out there, you know what's going on. It's difficult to enforce because of the amount of folks out there and all that's going on right now. I can't imagine how you can be out there with the construction going on, but bottom line is, I know I've asked, after the purpose and need came out and again gave us what we need to know, I think it's critical that we have a presence out there and that we continue to enforce. Like I just said, it's going to be 6-7 years before we can get anything tangible done or started. Not done, but started. We're going to do everything we can to speed that up. But in the meantime, everybody's got to cooperate, be careful. It's just, the accident rates are astounding. And it's not just in Warsaw. Warsaw and Columbia City is having the same issues. The urbanized areas along the US 30 East portion of the study are where 70% of the accidents are. We just heard that update this morning, and that's astounding as well. So that's City of Warsaw and Columbia City. So, questions? All right, thank you.
I thank the police department for being out there. I've seen an added presence for sure, pulling over truckers and speeders, the like. So we appreciate you guys being out there. All right, any other questions for the mayor or Captain Beam? All right, let's go back to item 1 then in the unfinished business. Do we have a representative for MACOG and NDOT?
Yep.
You're both here, very good. All right, Tracy Horrell, Warsaw Community Schools. You brought this to our attention, and let's...
Yes, so this was brought up, I'd say 2 or 3 months ago through City Council that got reported to us, and we investigated where a student was reported crossing at 25 and Union Street, and we did an assessment with Mr. Fick, and we have a process in place. We discover or monitor if students are crossing not only 25, but also 15, especially when the weather gets warm. And we saw a massive increase of crossing of the high school across 15, because it's much quicker to walk home than it is to ride the bus for 35 minutes. But in that process, through that, I received a call from Dana, I don't know who that is there, about there being some not necessarily crosswalk sign, but signs of walkers to cross on that part. Our process, just to familiarize yourselves, if we find out, administration does contact that student and the parent and notify them that that is a no-walk zone. We provide transportation across 25 and across 15 to all those students that live there. So in that, with that, it was brought up that maybe those signs need to be removed. Warsaw Community Schools is not saying we need to be removed, but we want to do everything we can to, I guess, not eliminate or entice the students to walk across, but to provide that safe environment. So I think we have everybody here at the table today to have those conversations, that point of view. Yeah, that's where we currently stand, and I guess my only question would be then, have we followed up with that individual that reported? Because I believe maybe that's where Dana got that call. So that's where we currently stand, so any questions for me?
I think we have the gentleman that reported this. Would you like to come up?
Yeah, sure.
If you want to give us your name, please, and you live in that area?
Yeah, so hi, my name's Nate Callithan, for those of you who don't know me. And yeah, I live in the area and in the neighborhood. And before any decisions on this are made, I just want to reiterate, regardless of, whether we're busing students or not, this isn't just like a during school hours thing. I mean, this is a neighborhood that this is going through. And if you have cars going 40 miles an hour, I mean, those are fatal speeds. You have people, there's a potential for kids to be killed. We've already had kids killed outside of Harrison in the previous years, and I wouldn't want to see that happen again. I don't think the answer is going to be telling kids not to cross there, because they're going to cross anyway. I mean, it's summertime right now, and they're crossing there. So I think, I can understand wanting to have a solution right now that fixes the problem, but busing kids doesn't actually fix the initial problem of it's an unsafe intersection. And I think if we don't do anything to make it safer, that's a really unethical decision and way to go about this. As a representative of Ride Walk or of KCV, we can certainly work together to figure out ways to mitigate that. But right now, there isn't a safe way to approach the school on foot or on bike that doesn't cross 25 or 15. And so I would just like to reiterate that, even though you might have this short-term solution, that can't be like the final determination of what should be done. Because this is a neighborhood, and I think telling kids that they're not allowed to exist within their neighborhood is, pretty unethical.
All right, thank you. Mr. Platner?
Would you like me to approach this?
Yes, please. Thank you.
So I think, trying to get back to the beginning of is there a problem or isn't there? I'm not sure I understand that there is a problem. I get that there's a concern with the school children actually crossing, and so I understand why the school did what they did. I'm not really trying to say yes or no whether I agree with it or not even, but just the fact that they've decided that school kids are going to get bused instead of walk, fine with me. The signs that we have there are school crossing signs, and so technically speaking, that wouldn't be accurate because those are designated school crossing signs. So if the school has said there's not going to be a crossing here, then those signs shouldn't be there. I think I have made a suggestion. If we still feel like there's pedestrian activity there, I'm not sure how much pedestrian activity there actually is, but if there's some, I have no problem replacing those signs with the crosswalk, kind of just pedestrian crossing signs, which is slightly different, but similar looking signs, just not school kids. I'm not sure that really makes Nathan any happier. But I kind of go back to the beginning of I'm just not sure there's a problem there. Is there a potential for an issue? Absolutely. There's a potential for something to happen at, frankly, any intersection where you have an uncontrolled crossing, where there's a pedestrian that crosses and has to find a gap in traffic. So I'm not sure beyond the sign changes that I'm suggesting. I'm not sure what the right answer would be. In my mind, that's probably adequate, at least for the moment. I'm just not aware that there's enough of a demand of pedestrians crossing there that would necessitate the need for any further action beyond that. Maybe I'm missing something, which is, I think, why I was suggesting let's talk about it in this group as well.
If I may, with high visibility crosswalks possibly be an added enhancement as well.
Possibly, yeah, I think right now we just have the 6-inch lines, is that, yeah. Oh, yeah, there you go, we got it on picture, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Sure.
I think it would be a good idea to enhance this crossing in whatever way we can. I do think it's not just students that use this. I think throughout the day, I think there are people that do cross here, whether we see them or not. I think people get going at a high rate of speed through this corridor, and there's a hill. So it is a relatively blind intersection. So anything we can do to help enhance that would be appreciated.
I think the issue is that if we don't allow them, if the schools don't want them to cross there for the school portion of it, we have children on that sign, and we're telling them that this is where to cross. I don't think that that's what we want. Is it? The transportation director is here, and Tracy, the schools don't want anyone to cross a state highway, correct?
Yeah, and we're gonna do the best we can, and the director Mark can talk about that, and we bust that for that reason. We can't stop kids from crossing the street at any given time, but with the sign that encourages that, they're gonna do it whether we're there or not, and all we can do is help, monitor that, follow up with the safety precautions and what is there. I mean, if we have an habitual offender that continues to do it, and then there's an accident, we followed up 6 times, we're gonna probably have to walk them to that bus every day, but I would say since I started in January, we've had one issue come up here. The more that I'm worried about is that high school crossing 15 where we know we have lines and we don't have crossing there. So I have mentioned anything we can do to discourage it, it's fine, but I understand it's a community. Maybe we change the sign better, but that is for that too.
Just to clarify, the sign I'm referring to change it to would be kind of the diamond sign that has a pedestrian walking. It's not I guess there's school children, right, like you say, so it wouldn't be a school child, it would be an adult crossing. So, but it would still warn traffic that there's a pedestrian crossing here.
Dan, do you remember what year we put in the right turn only going northbound at that intersection?
2017.
I looked that up when this first came up, and now I forgot. I want to say maybe 5 years ago,
Okay.
just a good guess.
Yeah, I think it was 2017.
So I just, out of curiosity, I look back at crashes, I only went back to 19. And I only show 4 crashes since we have done that. So obviously that has made a difference for vehicle crashes. I didn't see any vehicle versus pedestrian crashes at that intersection, but just going back to 2019.
Yeah, we had many crashes at this
Very much
intersection
so.
before 2017. I think it was a big win when we made that change.
Absolutely.
But yeah, this was the first I had heard that this was a concern on the pedestrian side.
Is there a diamond or a warning sign up on the crest of that hill or prior to that?
Yeah, yep, they're advanced, they're in advance a block or two before on both sides.
You talking westbound then?
Yeah.
It'll be both
eastbound,
sides. It'd be both
for the
sides.
eastbound traffic on west of the intersection where the hill is.
Well, that's at the top of the hill.
There-
Where that
yeah,
one
there
we
it is,
were
if you
just
turn
looking
around,
at
yeah.
was, there's nothing before that eastbound.
Right, there's nothing coming from Logan. Let's just say Logan.
Right,
turning
that's
right.
what I'm
There's
asking.
nothing
Well, there's-
right-
one.
Right there.
Right there.
Yeah.
Pedestrian crossing ahead.
Right.
Yeah. And again, we would change that to the same
To the
looking
diamond.
sign, yeah, right.
Yeah.
And just on, as a, just transportation, and when you have hundreds of just vehicles in that area, any, between the hours of 7 to 8, or 7 to 7:45, buses and all that, that's where our focus is, because that's all drivers do is call up and say, and it's just not that area there, it's all along the 15 corridor. As far as Lance even had a student jet bowled out in front of him that we have on video. So as from the school standpoint is that anything on the other side of 25, that's my responsibility. And that's why I patrol that. And just make sure that, you know, and I catch the kids and I send it up to Tracy and it gets down.
What's the speed limit?
30 on
But it's,
that area, yeah. on
to me, it shouldn't even be a crossing area, but that's my opinion. Because I just think it's just there's just too much traffic going on at especially during the school year.
Yeah, and we have that difficulty, I think, you know, Nathan mentioned it, like, they're gonna cross whether you want them to cross or not. Now, you can do something about the school children. You can't avoid people crossing, so if I could control where everybody crossed, I'd make sure they crossed only where there's a stop sign or a signal or something where it's controlled, but I can't do that, and people are gonna take the path of least resistance. So in a case like this, like, I will say, yes, it's not the ideal place for crossing, but there's a demand to do it, and so, you know, we try to make the best of that situation by putting up the signs and the markings, and we can certainly do the high-vis, like the piano key crosswalk markings. It'll help a little bit too.
The alternative to crossing there would be for them to go farther east to Buffalo Street and cross.
Right, because honestly, the majority of the students that we've caught and got them in the right direction was they were heading towards the library. So I would direct them down to the light at 15 down there, and then they'd cross because they're still on the same plane as the library itself. So, and once that, we had like 4 or 5 cases of that, and they understood. But it's just
There's not a high demand that I'm aware of pedestrians crossing there. And we did a traffic count a number of years ago and didn't find much of a need, or much of a demand, I should say, of actually doing it. But there's a handful, certainly, that's happening.
So you're able to do traffic counts and, well, I guess from traffic, but pedestrian counts?
We have in the past, yeah, we have, yeah.
Okay. Mr. New, do you have anything to add?
The only things I could think of, one, we can help lead you a lot of the traffic counts. So, yeah, we can do that. We can do turn counts at the intersection. MACOG, meaning we. The other idea I had is if you kind of track where you're wanting kids to actually cross over at Buffalo Street. There's really not a continuous sidewalk all the way through there. There's a couple gaps, I believe. So, you know, filling in those gaps and then, you know, painting it or do something to make it painfully visible to the kids that that's the route you want them to go. I'm not sure how feasible that is, quite honestly, but that is an idea or a suggestion. But something to really try and, you know, painting the curve a certain color or something. That's the only other suggestion I could provide. The piano keys, yes, you know, but again, that kind of, it's a sticky situation of, you know, you really not wanting people to cross there. So how much should we encourage people to safely cross there? You know, it is a hard question to answer. But at least for the kids, you could, you know, do things to encourage them to go the routes that you want them.
It's surprising at 30 mile an hour, if you're at the top of the hill at Union Street and you want to cross, it's surprising how quickly at 30 mile an hour that those cars come from the west there. You can see them coming westbound, but it's a little tougher to see them when they're coming over that hill from the west.
I mean, I don't know what more you can do short of a signal or stop, and I don't know what else we're talking about here.
Yeah. Well, that sign that's up there is confusing for us, and I'm sure it would be for the child. If we can put something there for adults, as you suggested, that would be better than a school with children there.
Yep, we'll
I think
certainly,
that would
we'll
help.
certainly do that. Yep.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure. So are we okay with the enhanced cross as well? Okay. I just wanted to make sure that
We'll
was
change out the signs and we'll put up the high vis, put in the high vis
perfect.
markings. Yep.
I think both of those things would go a long way.
Okay. Will do.
All right.
Thanks, Dana.
Yep.
Any other comments?
Thank you, Dan.
You know, that's I'm thinking back a few years, when I went to Madison.
It's about 60 years.
A couple years ago, yeah. And I was a crossing guard in the 5th grade, and that was my station.
Was it?
That was my station, right there.
Less traffic probably at the time.
Most likely.
Horse and buggy here and then?
And we have come a long way since then. And I'm, you know, as others have said, I don't know what you can do to prevent people from crossing. We still live in a free world, and people are given choices. I can see doing things that will not entice them to cross. But at the same time, I think it's unrealistic for us to think we're going to get it shut down. I think maybe changing signs from a school sign to a regular pedestrian diamond, I think that's a good move. At least we're trying to eliminate some of the confusion.
And
So-
there is information for Edgewood Middle School and Washington School to let their students know that they shouldn't be crossing there, correct? And you maintain that throughout the year?
It'll be a big one to start the year, so we're busing about that, 25, 15, push out starts.
Very good. Well, if we could take care of the kids part of it, then hopefully the adults make the right choice.
I think it would be interesting too down the road to look at the sidewalk issue to see if there's something that we could do to extend sidewalk.
We've taken a look at that, and I think the one concern is that, you know, there's only so much can be done along a state road, as far as State Road 15. You know, it really goes back to the community making a commitment to Complete Streets program that gets these kids from schools to parks, to their homes, to the libraries. You know, that's the crux of a Complete Streets designation and protocol. And, you know, right now, we don't have that. We do everything we can. We're doing a project up around Lincoln School to try and improve safety. It took us 7 years to get, don't start me on why it took us so long, but it's not our fault. But here we go, and we've paying double what we were going to pay for it. I'm getting a little political, but we're finally going to get it done. And those are the types of projects that we need to focus on. The Complete Streets programs that get kids to the parks, to their schools, to their homes safely.
Thank you, Mayor.
I would like to bring up one other thing that was brought up earlier, in that we had a win when we made that one lane turn right only and not go straight across. And I'm wondering if we couldn't do a little bit more than paint at this point, since we realize the benefit of it. Of course, now I just look over at Dustin and realize we have to plow that too, so I'll just be quiet.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. If you want to stick around, we may have another issue for you coming up. Let's move on down to Shady Lane, 30-mile-an-hour zone. Joel, you want to start that one off?
Absolutely. We received complaints of speeding vehicles on Shady Lane. At the time, there was not a speed limit that was posted. The street department went ahead and posted it. It's an ordinance at 30 miles an hour. State statute says that in cities, if there's not a speed limit posted, that it's automatically 30 miles an hour. It's not something that the city came up with, it's something that the state came up with. It was previously posted at 25, and, which was incorrect, so at some point, those signs were taken down. So we had the speed limit signs put up on both sides, on the east and on the westbound side. Still getting complaints. The police department was going over there and increasing patrol. We were not able to catch anybody who was speeding. And in fact, at one point, the neighbors called in and wanted to know why the police department is sitting there, and we were running radar based on their complaints, and we got complained on for doing our job. All right, so I asked Dustin to put up another sign in the middle of Shady Lane so that we could run speed signs. I had a sign up there for 6 days, and I calculated, I counted vehicles, if they were going over 5 miles an hour, that was a speeding vehicle. I don't know how many people get pulled over 5 miles an hour, but I counted 5 miles an hour, that was a speeding vehicle. So in 6 days, we counted 3 vehicles that were going over that. And we use this sign so that we don't waste our time. So we know that if there's speeding vehicles between 2 and 3, that's when we're gonna put the officer out there. We're not gonna let him wait for 6 days to catch those three vehicles. The average speed was 15 miles an hour. 50th percent speed was 13, 85th percent was 20 miles an hour. There is not a speeding issue on Shady Lane, I can assure you. That doesn't mean there's vehicles that don't speed, but 3 vehicles in 6 days, I would take that on any of my streets any day. I do have copies of the traffic study if anybody does want them.
Any other discussion?
No, I'll just follow up real quick with Joel. I think he covered it extremely well there. But a lot of the phone calls we received at the street department, we encouraged them to put it up on their neighborhood Facebook page. You know, typically, I should say, there's probably not a whole lot of people just coming to drive through the neighborhood. It's somebody that knows, you know, another person that lives there, or somebody that actually lives in the community there, or the neighborhood community. So encourage everybody to kind of to slow down and watch for kids. It is summertime, kids are still out of school, so they're out everywhere. So that's all I have.
So I take it we have no action on this one, correct?
Correct.
Very good. Move on to traffic ordinance update. Jack?
Yes, this Monday we will be taking up the issues that we had discussed in the February meeting. We'll be looking at getting into ordinance, the updates, things well overdue, and plan on following that up with one that we did from May later on. So it is moving along.
Very good. Thank you. On to new business. Property damage due to accidents in front of the home and business at 223 West Winona Avenue. Connie?
Yes, I brought the information before the commission last month. 14 Phipps that lives at 223 West Winona, and she is present today to present her information.
Excellent. Tina, would you like to step up to the mic, please?
I do have some pictures of some of the recent accidents, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I mentioned the name of the state because I think this will be all together. State route, so we should load my state.
Okay, you want to?
Okay, well, I've been there 31 years, and I'm not sure in the last 10 years what the difference has been, but we seem to have a lot of people that like to speed on this road, and it's been an issue for a really long time. In the last 10 years, we've had a semi that's turning right on Washington, I believe, to get to the post office. And we've had 3 times that the utility pole has been damaged, put me out of business for the day. It's gotten so bad that the last time that NIPSCO came and fixed the pole, my energy still comes from the house in the same direction, but they relocated my energy towards the park to that utility pole, so at least I can it not affect me financially. So, you know, thank you for all the work that you've done at Rarick Park, and that's another issue because there's a lot of little kids that are walking unattended, crossing 25 to get to the park behind me. So there's just been a lot of issues. There's a lot of speeding on that road. I'm not really sure how it happens. I don't see the accidents, but I hear them and run out to them. We've actually had 3 in the last probably 4 months. So it's just been, I don't know what the answer is. I do believe that if we could have a flashing stop sign on both sides of Washington, that might get people's attention. I hate to throw people under the bus, but when Rocky Clemens had his accident a couple months there, he told me, he said, Tina, I drive on this road every day. I don't know what happens. And, you know, and Ava Gunter, she blew through and ran into my parking, ran into my landscaping and hit 2 of my clients' parked cars in the parking lot. So we're not talking a little bit of speed, we're talking a lot. So I don't have the answer besides appealing and asking for the signs that blink, that maybe that might get people's attention. I know that when you pull out on Washington, my business is right there in the corner, and I live here too, so I'm probably a lot more passionate about it. And I don't get away from it, so I've been there 31 years straight. So forgive me for feeling this way, but I don't know what the answer is. I want a guardrail. I want a stop sign with lights on. I want boulders out there so it doesn't affect me having to fight with the insurance company from the car that damaged my property. I mean, I got a little bit more things to do. I'm self-employed. I don't have anyone to help me buffer that. I'm doing it all on my own as a single, you know, owner, kind of running my self-employment business there. So it's very aggravating at times. And I work really hard. If you drive by my place, I work really hard because my business is one of the first ones you see coming into Warsaw, and I take a lot of pride in it.
Can we get to the situation here is they ran the stop sign there going to Winona Avenue from Washington.
Yes, it's
From the
crossing,
north.
it's the crossing over
in
that
those-
happens more accidents, is them running that Washington, not, you know, like you said, they say, we didn't see it. I travel this road all the time. I just think that everyone's on autopilot so much, they're not, you know, and this is neither here nor there, talking about 30. My sister lives down in Indianapolis, I mean, not far from, the interstate. And she was here last week, and I remind sis, don't cross 30, even if you've got the green light, because people don't pay attention.
Let's see if, Dana, can you help us there? It's a state route.
Yeah, I'll just say I haven't been aware of any problems until right now, but I'm more than happy to do a traffic study and look at the crashes, see if there's anything that we need to do.
Well, like I said, we've had 3 semis in the last, I didn't have the paperwork, my computer crashed, so I had all that documented on my old computer. But, the last time we finally was able to get the semi driver, and the police responded very quickly, caught him down on Crystal Lake Road, because one morning, it was the morning of Thanksgiving. 2 weeks later, it was the same day, and it happened again at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. And so we were able to apprehend them, so at least I felt like I was vindictive of a little bit of what's happening here, because I know that everyone else, the city has to pay for that. Someone has to pay for it.
Can we take a look at this, and then maybe we can get with a little help from NDOT, since it's their road. We'll have to probably table this for right now and
Right.
look into it a little bit more and see if there's anything that can be done.
That would be marvelous. And I want to thank you, because every time I call and die and I have a huge pothole that would eat up my Mini Cooper, you guys are always there, very quick and very responsive, and I appreciate that. And Joe, I appreciate what you've done at Rarick Park, because it turned out a lot more amazing than what I thought. I was kind of against everything, but you guys did a beautiful job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Quick question for you. I'm just noticing, I'm not a planner, but you are sitting very close to the front of your property
Oh,
line.
yeah, you can't get much, yeah.
With your building. I'm just, certainly that's going to aggravate a circumstance with a car being, or a truck going fast, being so close to the front of your structure. I guess I'm just curious. Obviously, that's been there for a long time, and we're not going to change that.
Right.
But being close to that property line, typically there's a reasonable amount of setback that's required. And I don't know if that's just making this whole situation worse. I would think it probably
Like
is.
I said, you know, I've been there 31 years, Joe. In the
Right, right.
last 10 years, I don't know what's changed. I don't know if there's just more traffic being redirected
Sure.
my way. I'm not really sure. You know, now that, you know, Marsh's has been closed, the accidents used to happen there on Buffalo as people were pulling out from Marsh's, because the vet doesn't have his setback enough that when the cars park right to the end, you can't see. So, you know, that's an issue to me, you know, and thank you again for doing what you're going to do at Marsh's, because I came to that meeting also and fought really hard for that not to become manufacturing. We really need retail down there. We really need to revive that part of town. So that's what I'm getting at. When Marsh's opens up and something great goes in there, then it's going to be at Buffalo too.
My assumption is that all these crashes you're talking about are for cars traveling eastbound. They're not,
Well, the cars are getting hit because someone's blowing through the Washington stop sign.
no, I understand that, but it's not a visibility issue there is what I'm trying to.
No,
Yeah,
no,
okay.
it's not. Not at all.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Tina.
you.
All right,
Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. All right, Bison Lane and the alley intersection. Dustin?
Yeah, we had several calls here lately on the intersection of the one-way alley going from Buffalo to Lake Street that intersects with Bison Lane. A lot of the complaint is you know, a lot of near accidents because of not having stop signs in the alley, as well as the overall speed going through the alley, coming through out towards Lake Street. We've had some complaints from the dentist's office there, as well as, you know, their employees come out of the parking lot into the alley and people flying through there. So just kind of wanted to bring that back up to speed. I had some talks with Aaron and Justin both earlier, and something I don't know if we need to make action, kind of look into a little more of potentially, you know, it is a one-way alley, but of potentially either making that you know, doing an engineering study and having that become a three-way stop or four-way stop, or potentially making Bison Lane a one-way, you know, road. Right now, it's currently still a two-way road as well. Justin had some ideas and stuff on that earlier when we talked, so we're just kind of at the beginning stages, but kind of wanted to get the wheels turning, so we could improve this a little more, you know, potentially at the next meeting or have more discussion on it.
Yeah, and I think this is a unique situation in town. Generally, when somebody's crossing a road from an alley, they recognize that they need to yield the right-of-way to the traffic on the major road. Bison Lane is a unique road in the city, as it was created to accommodate the addressing for the mews that were going in, the houses on that side. So it is a unique intersection where people might not automatically realize that they should be yielding to the right-of-way to that roadway. So I think examining and possibly putting up four-way stops, even though the traffic counts might not merit that, I think we could take a look at that and maybe putting up the stopway for at least the alley, so that they know to stop and yield the right-of-way to Bison Lane or looking at a four-way would be the prudent move in this case.
Have there been accidents? Have there been concern?
I know there's been a bunch of significant, I went with a resident right there on the corner as well as, had several calls from the dentist's office. I don't know that there was any accidents officially reported, but a lot of near misses that have warranted the concern.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I've heard some complaints too.
Surprised, I'd like to know how many people actually go that route, but I know when, a lot of them are coming from Center Lake and cut there and go out Lake Street. Whether they're on Bison Street, I don't know.
I think a lot of it is with the downtown events and stuff, they're using it as a cut through from Buffalo when they're downtown for things of that nature, and they come on out that direction. Going to Lake Street to get out of town.
Okay. So, where do we go from here?
Well, I just kind of wanted to open it up, mainly to get everybody kind of considering it, thinking about it, maybe get a chance to drive through the area, kind of see what you think. The building, the townhouses that sit right there at that corner, there is a view obstruction. It's kind of tight there until you pull right up. You're not going to pull up to that alley intersection or alley in Bison, headed towards Lake Street, headed to the west, and see down Bison Lane to the north. It's not going to happen. So just more so wanted everybody to go take a look at it. And then at our August meeting, maybe we can come up with some advanced ideas or kind of a game plan to help make that a little safer.
Okay. All right. Any other discussion? We'll table that until August then, if everybody gets a chance to take a look at it. Thank you. Committee and planning reports. Anything new to report? All right. Other matters that may come before the board?
Could we go back to that Washington and Winona real quick? I got a question. Or as far as just a comment in general. Is an option to turn that into a no left turn?
I don't think that's the issue. So the issue is, you're talking on Washington Street?
Yeah, where the business was that we talked previous on Washington and Winona, where we were?
223.
Yeah, 220. Or 3, sorry.
So that would be in that decision then, since it would be their intersection.
But the issue is they ran that stop sign. And people coming out of the
So they just ran straight.
post office and
So
coming
they,
out that way.
all the accidents were they didn't stop at all?
No, there's some that are just failure to yield.
Okay.
And then, which I would like to look into a little bit more.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some that are running the stop sign, but I think the majority of them, according to my brief poll of crash reports, are failure to yield right away.
Because a couple of the pictures were that it looked like they already crossed and they got hit. So in the front, so I was just curious.
Was it and she mentioned semis, it was the semis that hit the vehicles
That hit the pole.
eastbound. Was it hit the vehicles or it just hit the pole?
I think the semi was the one that there's the utility poles right there on the corner. I think those are what it.
I thought that was as a result of the crash, but maybe not. Okay, it looks like we're gonna have to look into it. All right. Other matters? Anything else? The next regular scheduled meeting is August 2nd. I have a personal favor that we move that back 1 week. Will that be all right with anyone? Back to August 9th?
I think that's
Justin had an idea.
I think that's a great idea, if that's a motion. I'll second it.
Justin, what was your idea? Oh, Dustin had an idea.
Or Dustin, I'm sorry, Dustin. That's it. Just, I was thinking.
No, I think
Yeah.
that would be terrific. Let's go with that.
Okay.
Because he had the idea for the four.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so our next meeting will be moved back to August 9th. Same time, same location.
We got,
Motion to adjourn?
we got our,
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Cindy and Jack. All in favor?
Aye.
yeah,
All right. Thank you. Appreciate everyone coming.
Okay, August 9th it is.
Yes.
Just real quick. I did hear from
Okay. Thank you, Mayor, for being here.
There you go. We're in front of the store. But just the sidewalk, you know, for that parking area, there's a little bit of a lane.
All right.
Just one of those problems.
Did you take care of the,
It's
Jack?
gonna be really bad when it freezes. Somebody's gonna slip and fall on it.
Thank you.
Well, I went and looked at that.
I thought
So
you'd
let
get a
me-
chuckle out of my,
less than 30 days.